Hey, what's going on, everyone? Happy Friday, and welcome to another edition of WST Winners NFL Week 14 picks here on Winnipeg Sports Talk, presented by our friends at Coolbet. Andrew Paterson with you, soon to be joined by Pat Gregoire and Jake Bolin Moss. We'll chop up our favorite picks against the spread for the week, hit a couple props, some TD scores, and crank out some parlays and get them boosted up into the Coolbet combo cards and exclusive. As always, we are brought to you by our friends at Coolbet. And if you've missed Winnipeg Sports Talk this week, heads up if you like poker and want to get down to Costa Rica at the end of January. We're running an incredible promo with 3 qualifying tournaments over the course of the next month. The top 4 finishers in our WST events will end up getting a ticket for the January 12th final tournament, and the winner on that event will be flying to Costa Rica 2 weeks later to take part in the Costa Rica Poker Festival. I will be there. Our friend Jeff Hamilton from the Winnipeg Free Press, 3-time champ of the WST tourneys, will be there. And it'll be the same tourneys as we always do. There'll be a $100 bounty on my head, Michael Remus's head, and Jeff Hamilton's head. But if you finish in the top 4, you will get a ticket for the finals on January 12th. And you'll be one win away from an incredible week trip in Costa Rica with airfare, hotel, and the $550 USD entry into the Costa Rica Poker Festival main event. So pay attention to the socials. But just for your knowledge, the 3 qualifying tournaments: Wednesday, December 10th, Monday, December 22nd, and Wednesday, January 7th is the last chance qualifier. And then January 12th is the final. So good luck to everyone. And if you haven't played before, you can message us. But essentially, if you're playing at Coolbet, instead of going to the sports book, click on poker and then head into tournaments, search WST. It'll be there. Lock yourself in. We'll see you for the first qualifying tournament next Wednesday at 8 p.m. Central Time. All right, let's get her going and welcome in the boys, Pat Gregoire, Jake Bolin Moss. Fellas, we are locked and loaded and ready to go, but a big one last night. A couple sort of pseudo-loser leaves town matches, and Jake, the Lions lived to see another day, and man, the Dallas Cowboys, despite how good they've looked over the last month, now really up against it with the incredible threshold we expected to be for a wild card in the NFC.
Yeah, listen, Huss, I hate to be this guy. I wanted to bet the over in that game so bad, and I refused to pull the trigger because it's Thursday night, but I'm a fool, man. Of course that game was going over. You could have bet any number you wanted. That game was going over. So, yeah, I mean, listen, a lot of fun. I was on the Cowboys, so unfortunately didn't cover there at the 3.5. But listen, the Lions showed they can find a way to get a job done, even though they lose that tough one last week to Green Bay on Thanksgiving. They take care of business, and they're still very much in the hunt. The Cowboys, on the other hand, they got a pretty big uphill battle here. So, yeah, tough one for Cowboys fans. You should probably know at this point that when things get tough for the Cowboys fans or it's must-win territory, it's probably the time to fade them, unfortunately. So, yeah, I mean, good game overall. Good for my fantasy week, although no one probably cares. But I had Gibbs, had Montgomery, Javonte Williams in a couple leagues. So touchdowns all over the place. I did love to see that.
Hey, don't even get me going about fantasy. And we need as fantasy players to band together and figure something out. You cannot have 4 teams on the bye in the final week of the regular season when people are desperate to make the playoffs. It is nuts, but that is part of the schedule. And of course, with the week 18 and now coming out of Thanksgiving where everybody plays, it is real tough. All right, well, listen, let's get to it. And Patty, you know what we'll do? I will, Jake, why don't you start and then we'll go to me and we'll finish up with Pat. Pat, despite being in the middle, will be the anchor leg of our picks against the spread. We'll start it off with our first couple each. Jake, where are you starting the card for week 14?
Yeah, listen, started the card at probably one of the big games of the weekend. And it's interesting, you know, a team that's won 9 of their last 10, top of the NFC, almost a touchdown underdog against a divisional opponent this week. listen, I think there's going to be a lot of love for the Bears this week. You're not going to find me betting the Chicago Bears. I'm taking the Green Bay Packers -6.5 this week. And I think a lot of it has to do with the fact that, to me, until I see otherwise, the Green Bay Packers still own the Chicago Bears. Here's some stats. After their win in Week 18 last year, the Bears are now 1-11 straight up versus the Packers in their last 12 meetings, including 2-10 against the spread in those games. Bears have already been a pretty heavy public side in this one, and understandable. I mean, they beat the Eagles outright last week as like 7.5-point underdogs. So, they got to get their respect where they deserve it. The Pack played a pretty good game against the Lions last week. I think that Packer defense shows tough. And until I see otherwise, I think the Packers own the Chicago Bears. So I'm going to take the Packers -6.5, a big number for a divisional game like that. Not usually what I tend to do, but it's just historic with these two teams and the Packers kind of owning that matchup. The next one I'm going to, and we were kind of talking about this one off air, but I'm taking the Commanders +1. And I think this is one of those situation similar to the Bengals last week where, you get your starting quarterback back and it gives a little juice to the team. It looks like Jaden Daniels should be ready to go if they give him, the full go-ahead on Sunday. And I'm not really trusting the Minnesota Vikings right now. It's crazy because J.J. McCarthy hadn't really looked good, and then he goes in concussion protocol, and they got to start Max Brosmer. And with Max Brosmer starting, J.J. McCarthy all of a sudden seems like a great option for the Minnesota Vikings because it's a bit of a nightmare there right now. So, it's been a bit of a lost season for the Vikings after going 14-3 last year with Sam Darnold. And, he's thriving over in Seattle. And I'm sure that was a rough one last week, as KOC had to watch Darnold just chop them up, carve them up. So, I don't really trust in the Vikings. I think the Commanders showed some juice last week against the Broncos, took them all the way to the end, missed 2-point conversion to win the game. And it sounds like, it seemed like that guy was pretty open. Big pass block there by Nick Bonito got the job done for Denver. But I'm going to take the Commanders. I have them at +1 here on my sheet, but it'll probably just be a money line play for me. I think Jaden Daniels will probably go, and I think it's going to give some juice to that offense. Maybe get the boys in the defense going a little bit more. I think they can win this one against Minnie.
All right, I'm going to start off, and I am going head-to-head against you in this Green Bay-Chicago game, and I'm going to be that guy that takes this. And by the way, like if you're betting the Packers, 6.5 is there at -114. If you like the Bears, you can get the full 7 at -115. So I'll be taking the Bears plus the 7. And I get it. There's a lot of history between these teams. However, this team is different with Ben Johnson as the head coach. Like, this is not the Matt Eberflus Bears. This is not the Matt Nagy. This isn't Lovie Smith. This is the Ben Johnson team. And I got to tell you, I mean, as much as I've got and was sort of pumping the tires on Kyle Shanahan, should get some serious Coach of the Year consideration for what he's done so far this year. I mean, the fact that the Bears are right now going into this week as the #1 team in the NFC is frankly incredible, and Ben Johnson deserves so much of the credit. Caleb Williams, for the most part, isn't turning the football over. The defense is playing a little bit better. And here's one other thing about this year's Packers. As good as they've looked at times, they've also come up with some big-time duds at home. I mean, we all remember, the loss to Carolina earlier this year. And listen, this is a big, big game. I don't at all, wouldn't be surprised if they won this game. But I think Chicago has enough momentum, is playing well enough, and I think the game plan of Ben Johnson is going to make this a game that we're going to want to watch into the fourth quarter. So give me the Bears at +7 in this one. Second pick, I think I'm going to keep riding with the Cincinnati Bengals here. The Bengals are +5.5 in Buffalo. If you remember the game last week, I mean, the Bills against the Steelers did not look good for that first half. I mean, they came out of it at 7-3, and then Pittsburgh promptly threw up all over themselves to begin the third quarter with the turnover. Bang, bang, the Bills were racing, and I mean, Pittsburgh just has absolutely no offense. That is not something you can say about the Cincinnati Bengals. Like, I think Buffalo is going to get theirs. I've got a prop in that game that we're going to get to a little bit later on. But when you look at the standings right now, because of how bad the AFC North is, the Bengals still actually have a chance to get back into this. I mean, they're 4-8. They're only 2 games back of Baltimore and Pittsburgh. Now, those teams are playing each other this week, so somebody is going to be 7-6 coming out of this. If the Bengals can find a way to win this game, it is game on for the division. I'm not sure that will happen. I still think Buffalo is the better team overall. But the one thing I know is that Joe Burrow can play outside. He can play in the cold. And he is going to make the Cincinnati Bengals a very live dog in this game. So don't expect it to get to 6. The 5.5 is the number that I think we'll get. And I wouldn't be surprised if this one went down closer to game time as people kind of realize, you know what, Joe Burrow's look great. They won that big game in Baltimore last week. They've had some extra time to prepare and get ready for this game. I like this spot for Cincy. I think this should be another really fun game. So I'm taking the Bengals plus 5.5 for pick number 2. Patty, where are you starting the card?
Listen, first and foremost, I'm not going to bet against the Bills, and I'm certainly not going to bet them this week, but I do love that pick for you, to be quite honest, because this Bengals team, Joe Burrow, have handily owned the Bills over year in, year out. And if I have to see that stupid gif of him throwing the ball in the snow and doing his cool little spin around one more time this week, I'm going to absolutely puke my brains out. But no, it's not on my card. I am going to go with you. I'll get this out of the way. I'm with you, Huss. I'm on the Bears as well. And listen, I agree with you. You are totally right, Jake. The Packers own the Bears, but this is 7 points. This is 7 points. They could still lose this game. They could still get their heart and their guts ripped out with a missed field goal to end the game. Maybe a double doink, or maybe it's the Packers who have a game-winning field goal, or maybe it's a charging down and it's a touchdown, and maybe we get a push. The fact that this game is 7, it doesn't agree with me. I don't agree with it, because I too, like you say, Huss, like, this is a different Bears team. This has different mojo around this group. So earlier on the year is like, okay, the wheels have to fall off here at some point with the Bears, and they could fall off here, but this seems like way too many points from here. So if we're going to get to 7, I'll take it. I'd even get them at 6.5 if we had to. But the fact that it's within that touchdown range, that football number, I'll ride with you. I'll take the Bears. The other pick that I like as well here is Seahawks minus 6.5 against the Falcons. And I know they're on the road traveling out east. I think they've proven over the last couple of years that really doesn't matter. And sure, the passing attack didn't look great against Minnesota last week. This is me betting more on the Seahawks elite defense and the fact that I just don't see Kirk Cousins in this offense putting up, more than 14 to 21 points at most. I really just don't see it at all. So I'll go with the Seahawks, the better team. Defense travels. You've heard that before, guys. I just think it's going to be a long, long afternoon here for the Falcons.
All right, so 2 of us on the Bears plus the 7. Jake's taking 6.5 on the Packers side of things. We've got Washington, Cincy, and Seattle as the other picks so far. Jake, round out your card with picks 3 and 4, if you don't mind.
Yeah, time to get stinky, boys. You know how I like to get ugly and stinky. And the first one I'm going with here is the Las Vegas Raiders plus 7.5 against the Broncos, divisional underdog. Touchdown, more than a touchdown. Listen to this. Why in the world would Denver be favored by I know why they are, because the Raiders stink. But why in the world should they be favored by a touchdown or more against anybody? Listen to these previous games from Denver. These are all in order. 1-point win over Washington, 3-point win over Kansas City, 3-point win over Vegas only a few weeks ago, 3-point win over Houston. They won by 20 over Dallas, so I'll give them that one. 1-point win over the Giants, 2-point win over the Jets, and a 4-point win over the Eagles. Listen, they find ways to win, but they don't win by a whole lot. Divisional game, a touchdown is a lot of points. I know how ugly it is. I hate the Raiders. They stink. They might be the worst team in the league. The fact that they beat the Patriots in week 1 drives me absolutely insane. But I'm going to ride with them this week at 7.5 as a divisional underdog. And I'm interested to see how that game goes. I mean, I guess there is a world where the Broncos blow them out. They just really haven't blown out a whole lot of teams this season. So I'll believe it when I see it, I guess is kind of what I'm saying there. And then I had a few that I was kind of choosing between. I know you like to do this, Huss, kind of with your last pick. I did have Cincy on there, but since you're taking them, Huss, I think I'll leave them off just to kind of get, a wide range of games here. I'm going to take another divisional dog, and it's another stinky one. I'm going to take the New Orleans Saints plus 8.5. I think they started to impress in that second half against Miami. I know, listen, Miami's not world beaters by any means, but Tyler Shuck's starting to find it a little bit with that offense. I think he's a good young player, and I think they'll probably give him a few more opportunities to, thrive, given that offense, isn't great to watch right now. Chris Olave's got a back issue he's dealing with. But listen, another divisional game. And one of those games where it's like, are the Bucs going to really blow out the Saints? I don't know. I'm not quite sold on that narrative. I think the Bucs will win this game, but I think the Saints could keep it tight here, especially late, even if it's garbage time. Find a way to get inside that 8.5. So I'm going to get two stinky picks: the Raiders plus 7.5, the Saints plus 8.5. Two divisional underdogs. I had to clean up after having to take a divisional favorite in the Packers with my first pick.
We got to get some Febreze out here after those two picks,
Patty. Does 9.5 interest you at all at minus 115? That meets our threshold, does it not?
Oh, yeah. I didn't see the 9.5. I'll take the 9.5 if that's up there.
And folks, if you're at Coolbet and you're buzzing around, make sure you click the arrow beside whether it's the totals or even the spread. Go in there and you can see that's where you can find all the alternate spreads. And that's how I love building my teases, or I like to buy some points here. But also, you could get that full extra point. And this is just the great thing about Coolbet. Look at the value you still get. So you get that extra full point, and it's still minus 115. So
I do that every time. And, and that's what we were talking about with the Green Bay and Chicago game. I mean, depending on which side you're on. And, I mean, listen, the difference between minus 109 to minus 115 isn't a lot. And no. I mean, a full point at that point. I mean, listen, it's some great advice, Pat. And going from 8 to 9, 8.5 to 9.5, I mean, particularly with the 8, just because it is that one score game, can really be significant. So mark that down as 9.5 for Jake and the New Orleans Saints. And just as a note, this isn't a prop that I'm taking, but we had Thomas Tipple on from Fantasy Points, and they've got an amazing data suite that, you can really kind of crank out numbers, really helpful for props. We were talking about this, and he said maybe one of their top plays for this week is the number he quoted yesterday was 226, but under on the Baker Mayfield passing number, dating back. And you think back that Bucs did crush the Saints 23-3 earlier this year in New Orleans. But that was a game where the Bucs offense did not do much. It was just defense, and the Saints were completely incompetent. And to your point, they are looking better right now. All right, going to my next pick. I'm going to saddle up with the Indianapolis Colts in Jacksonville. Now, traditionally, I mean, if you gave me two relatively evenly matched teams in the division and the home team is a slight underdog, I'm taking them probably 9 times out of 10. Here's the thing, though. I don't think that these teams are really that evenly matched. And listen, I know I took Tennessee against the Jags, and of all the underdogs that won and covered last week, Tennessee was not even in the ballpark. But I still am kind of in a real wait-and-see mode on the Jags. And, you look at Indy's losses the last couple weeks, to Houston and to Kansas City. Danny Dimes is still playing well. We've all been worried about his leg. I believe he's 4 touchdowns, no picks. They just went up against 2 elite defenses that really raised their level of play. I don't think that's the case in this Jacksonville game. And this is a massive, massive game for Indy. Listen, I think Cohen's done a good job with Jacksonville so far. But if there's one thing we know about Trevor Lawrence, he's never been a guy that's been able to string together 4 or 5 real quality starts. I do like the addition of Jacoby Myers. I think that's helped their passing game a little bit. But to me, I think Indy, Jonathan Taylor, Danny Dimes, or Indiana Jones, as he's now known as, are the play this week. Now, for the picks, I will be taking them at plus 1.5. I believe the money line, as we do the show right now, is minus 125. So, as I say, I'll be taking them for the purposes of the picks at minus 1.5. But I think when I play this game, it will just simply be a money line play on the Colts, and I might put that in together with a couple of others on a money line parlay as well. So Indy minus 1.5 is my third pick. Now, Jake, full disclosure, I have Seattle locked and loaded. But with you or with Pat already in on the Seahawks, I think I might pivot to one of these other games. You want a stinker? Can I interest you in the New York Jets at +3 at home against the Miami Dolphins?
That situation is so crazy because Tua stinks in cold weather. It's supposed to be cold in New York. I think he's like 0-8 in cold weather. But then meanwhile, he owns the Jets. I think the Jets are like 0-7 in the Tua era. So it's one of those games where something's got to give. Do you lean the home team as the underdog? Listen, I don't know if I'm going to pull the trigger on it, but it definitely caught my eye on the card this week.
So there is that. Now here, to be perfectly honest, I think the play that I would make if I wasn't a Chiefs guy would be Texans +3.5. Listen, Kansas City has to find a way to win. They could be down 3. I mean, hopefully Trey Smith plays in the interior, but there's a very good chance. I mean, we know that they're down 1, probably both of their starting tackles. We'll see what the situation with Jawan Taylor is on the right side. And they're going up against Will Anderson, Danielle Hunter, and the best front four in the National Football League. Patrick Mahomes is a guy, though, that can handle that. They will be prepared for it. But I do think like the total in that game is 42 right now. I mean, I could see this being a 17-14 game, a game that doesn't even get close to the number. I think there's going to be a lot of punting. I think there will be a field position game, and I think it'll come down to which quarterback can make a big play or two. And that I think is Mahomes, but I would not even considering taking the Chiefs to cover that spread. Thinking about the Ravens at home, I mean, Pittsburgh has just been so bad lately, and there was a thought on the thought on the Rams, who are -8 right now in a get-right game against the Cardinals. But I'll tell you what, I do like Seattle, and maybe we'll think about putting that one in on the parlay, but let's go with the Jets. The New York Jets at +3 at -119.
Love it.
Against the Miami Dolphins. We just lost Jake for a minute there, Patty, so we'll throw to you for your next couple of picks to round it out.
Yeah, like you guys, there's a few that I'm circling in around, and you mentioned just briefly there the game that I think I'm going to go with, and again, found a little bit of a better number when you cruise around on Coolbet. Rams -7.5, -111. This is, I don't even want to call it a get-right game because, I mean, you could argue that this is the best team in the NFL. It's just a revenge spot after a very, very disappointing loss, a very uncharacteristic game from Stafford, especially the way the game started. Sean McVay has been phenomenal in his career after a loss. I think this is a game where the Rams roll into Arizona and absolutely beat the brakes off the Cardinals and just remind us that last week was a fluke. So I will take the Rams with the big number -7.5. And my last pick, Jake, I can't have you riding solo with this stinky bet. You need someone to get in the mud with you. I'll get in the mud with you. Give me the Saints +9.5.
NO +9.5, a very big contender for the parlay. All right, well, listen, let's just keep rolling because we are a little tighter for time today. Let's get into the props. I will lead off. I got 2 ready to go, and the first one, this is the bet that I want to make in the Houston-Kansas City game. Obviously, I want to take the Chiefs on the money line. By the way, just in case you're wondering, that game right now, Chiefs minus 182 on the money line. And again, minus 3.5 is the number. If you do want to take the Chiefs at 3, it's outside of our thing at plus minus 122. But I'm going to lock in Mahomes over 1.5 passing touchdowns in this game. I have absolutely no faith in the Chiefs running game right now. And on top of it all, the Texans are not a team that you want to be running against. This is a game that Mahomes is probably going to be, speaking if you're looking at rushing numbers, it'll probably be Mahomes' rushing total. That is a number that you want to take a look at. I will tell you that right now, the Patrick Mahomes number on rushing is 24.5. I would smash that on the over. I think, this is massive high leverage game, a team with great pressure. You remember in the Tampa Super Bowl where they recorded Mahomes running like 495 yards behind the line of scrimmage,
Yeah.
and it was by far the most that anyone had ever done? This game might give it a run for its money. But again, the rushing total is great. It's plus money on over 1.5 touchdowns at plus 102. So I'm locking that in. And then my other prop is from that Cincinnati Buffalo game. And, I was just going through all the different options. I was stunned that this number is so low. James Cook receiving yards over 12.5. Now, he's going to get a ton of carries, but they don't have a great receiving core. The best thing the Bills can do is get the football into their hands of their number one playmaker. And, while Cincinnati is a rush defense that I think will lend to a lot of James Cook, I think his total, like for rushing and receiving, is like, 115 or something like that.
116.5, yeah.
And then, I look at his totals over the last number of games, and, I think he's gone over in the last 4 games. He's gone over that number right now. I'm just going to pull it up as we do this. I was looking at it.
Yeah, I got it here, Huss. He's gone over in 4 straight, 33, 13, 66, 24.
Yeah, and then the only one that he did not get in the last 5 was against Kansas City, and it was 11. This is a play that he can break in one play. Yep. And he's had at least 3 receptions in the last 4 games. So I'm just going to try and take advantage of a number I think that's advantageous to the better. James Cook over 12.5 receiving yards is my second prop. Jake, what's in the prop shop for you?
Yeah, listen, we got to make note of this. One of the historic days in WST Winners history. I'm taking a prop under. I don't think I've ever done this on the show. I maybe for the futures props, but I'm taking a prop under here. I'm taking Jonathan Taylor under 94.5 rush yards this week. Listen, Jacksonville, quietly the best rush defense in terms of yards allowed per game this season. They haven't allowed a lead rusher over 65 yards this season. And listen, Huss, I actually don't mind your Colts pick. It was almost on my card, and then I started to read a little deeper, and it seems like historically, recently the Jags have kind of had the Colts number, and it kind of scared me away. I do think Jonathan Taylor is going to get involved. If you don't want to take the under with the rush prop, I think taking his receiving over makes a lot of sense because you're going to want to get him involved in the game. If they're clogging up the middle of the field, if they're clogging up Jonathan Taylor, then I think you try to get him the ball, out in the flat, let him, get some room out with the ball in his hand. So, if you don't want to go the way of the under, I think you can go over in the receiving yards, but I'm going to go with the under. It's a big number, 94.5. And he's gone under 90 yards in 3 of his last 4. He got off this really hot start in an unbelievable game a few weeks ago against Atlanta with like 250 rushing yards. But just the way the Jacksonville defense has been playing the run and kind of the way things are going with Jonathan Taylor over the last few weeks here, I think he could have a great game. It doesn't mean he's going to clear 95 plus on the ground. So like I said, I'm going to go under with Taylor on the rush yards. And then I'm going to take a prop from the Saints game, which, I'm already invested in there with the spread. And this is a name you probably haven't heard a lot, but a name that I'm keeping my eye on, Devon Vele, over 35.5 receiving yards. He's starting to become a more of a favorite target for Tyler Shuck and the Saints offense. listen, Chris Olave is dealing with a back issue right now. He did practice in limited capacity yesterday. I think he'll probably end up going, but I think Vele is going to see some action. He caught 3 passes on 7 targets for 37 yards in week 12. And then last week, he followed that up with 8 catches on 8 targets for 93 yards and a touchdown. The Bucs pass defense hasn't been pretty, especially in the last few weeks. I think they give up the second most pass yards per game over the last 3. So I'm gonna take a Saints prop. If I'm gonna back the Saints, someone's gonna have to help them work the ball down the field. I'm going with Devon Vele over 35.5 receiving yards.
Devon Vele and a Jonathan Taylor under. Patty, fire up a couple of your favorites from the prop shop.
Yeah. First and foremost, Jake, kudos to you. That was circled on my card, but I did not have the stones to take a JT under. But Huss, I don't know if you were looking at my card, man. You mentioned both of them. You're betting one of them. So I'm actually with you on the James Cook 13.5. I was going to go with the combined, but the way that you break it down, it's actually smarter to go with the 13.5 on the over rather than risking it depending on what happens with the rushing yards. So I'm with you here. Especially if that offense gets humming and the Bills start out slow, they might not be able to run the ball nearly as much as they probably want to. So this one's definitely the safer of the two. Don't love doubling up on our props. I like to kind of give a little more options for the folks, but I think that one's too good, and it was on my card. So I'm going to go with that. And then the other one that you mentioned, you didn't bet it, but I'm betting it for sure. Patrick Mahomes over 25.5 yards. Won't spend too much more time on it. You mentioned it about how much he is going to have to use his legs with that pressure he is going to receive. But I said it on programs before. This Chiefs offense plays better when he's using his legs, when it's designed runs on the RPO, when he is scrambling and making magic happen out of nowhere. So give me Mahomes over 24.5 rushing yards.
Yeah, and you know what's funny? I'm just realizing, the Cook number right now is 13.5 at minus 110. I was locking these in last night, and that's why I kind of quoted the 12.5. Maybe move that line a little bit. But anyways, 13.5 is the number right now. Just if you're wondering why I said 12.5, I'm just looking at the bets that I already made. I didn't realize it had gone up slightly. All right,
shaking lines, Huss.
Hey, it's a good
some CLV, Huss.
Good business to be in. Jake, house callers, before we put these parlays together. Jake, who's getting a touchdown this weekend?
Yeah, I mean, listen, you look at the total numbers on the board. Could be a shootout in Buffalo with Burrow and the Bills. I was gonna take Jamar Chase. I wanted out there. I was gonna take Jamar Chase. I optioned out, went with the plus money. I'm going Chase Brown plus 107.
Chase Brown plus 107. Patty, who do you like for a house caller?
You took my pick with Chase Brown, Jake.
Patty.
No worries. It's okay because I don't know if this is too low, but it worked before. And I said I was going to smash the Devonta Adams button until it fails us. Devonta Adams. How is it? It's minus 137, which is crazy. But this should be minus 200. Every time they get in the red zone, they throw the ball to him and he catches it.
Matt Stafford is addicted to Devonta Adams in the red zone. It's insane.
How many 1-yard TDs does he have this year? 7, 8?
Yeah, has to. They brought back just drop it in a bucket into the end zone. The corner fade is back. The corner fade was dead. It is back and alive because of Devonta Adams.
You know who knows all about that? Kyron Williams fantasy owners.
Yeah.
The amount of times you're like, right on, first down and goal. No, let's go. And that's why Stafford had those ridiculous numbers all season long. All right, listen, I was thinking Devon Chain. He's been automatic. The Jet rush defense is not particularly good. And I do like the Jets to, maybe cover, potentially win this game. He's at minus 135. But we've got a receiver before. You know what? Listen, I'm doubling up. I'm doubling down, I should say, on my Mahomes 1.5 touchdown run. I think the touchdowns they're going to be through the air. The first couple games, Rashee Rice was getting tons of looks inside the 10. None of them were going in. We saw it last week. He is the most trusted receiver outside of Travis Kelce, who obviously isn't the Kelce of many years before, although still having a great season. But a plus 126 in a game like this where you need your best players to step up and save your season, I'll go Rashee Rice at plus 126. Get this number up a little bit.
I had my eyes on both those guys. Yeah, listen, obviously there was options all over the board, but Rice is not only is he getting, red zone targets, he's getting red zone carries, Huss. Like they'll snap the ball to him at a shotgun, like in the Wildcat. So listen, I think there's plenty of opportunity there for all three of those guys. Hopefully we can cash one this week.
All right. So we've got Brown, Rice, and Adams for the house callers. Mm-hmm. For the props, I actually listen, I'll be honest, I don't know who the hell this Valley guy is. I mean, I haven't paid a lot of attention to the Saints. But based on everything else, I am sort of with you on this Jonathan Taylor under. I mean, I'll leave it to you, Jake, as to which of those you want to take. If you feel a lot stronger for the second pick than the first one. But it's a big number on Jonathan Taylor. As you mentioned, 3 of the last 4. I mean, 100-yard games, they don't just hand them out. And I think this is going to be one of these games where the time of possession isn't heavily favored to one of those other teams. I don't think they'll be playing with a massive lead and just running it out. So I kind of do like the Taylor as far as the parlay goes.
Yeah, and listen, I was going to say, you look at the spread and you don't expect this to be like a blowout one way or the other, right? So probably not expecting 30 carries from Jonathan Taylor. And like I said, man, that Jacksonville defense, I didn't realize until I started diving into it a bit, but they've been stopping the run real well this season. So, yeah, I'm on board. I'm pretty comfortable with both my props, but can understand being a little shy of Devon Vele of the New Orleans Saints.
Anytime that we're tying a parlay to, Tyler Shuck at this point in his career.
I totally understand.
I think we roll the other way. So, Patty,
guys, we've done this before where we've tied too many games into one, and if it goes south, then all 3 parlays are now dead. So and let's change it up a little bit. We're always over city. Let's get a little bit creative. Let's go with an under.
The first ever under. Now obviously we're going to have the Cook number on there. Pat, why don't we take your rushing prop for Mahomes? Sure. Mahomes to get over 24.5, and then the James Cook number, I guess we'll go 13.5 because that was what the number is right now. So and this one will be in the exclusives. We're going Jonathan Taylor under 94.5. We're going James Cook over 13.5 receiving yards, and we'll take Patrick Mahomes over 24.5 rushing yards, which brings us to our parlay. To recap the picks, we're both on Chicago. Jake's on Green Bay. We can take that one off.
Yep.
We have 2 Saints at plus 9.5. So, I think we need to consider that one. We talked about Indy. And maybe if we want to go Indy, if we do like Indy, we just take the money line. We're not tied to anything when it comes to this promo. Listen, the Falcons, I believe, are perfect against the spread. I am with you on Seattle at 6.5 right now. It was a really quiet game for the Saints or the Seahawks last week. They were getting the hell blitzed out of them by Brian Flores. To me, this is a get-right game for Sam Darnold, certainly for JSN. So I've got some time for Seattle. And we'd also talked about Cincy at plus 5.5. You guys had thrown that out. So, listen, of my picks, Cincy or Indy, I'm feeling good at. I think the Jets one we might leave out of the parlay for obvious reasons. But what do you guys think about either Cincy or Indy as far as that goes? And where do we want to go? The Raiders, we cannot put the Raiders in a parlay. And despite the fact that they hung with Denver in that stinker, the 10-7 Thursday nighter a few weeks ago, I have a feeling that one's... Anyways, that one's just off the card. What are you guys thinking? Rams minus 7.5. We've got the Saints. So, well, let's put it this way. We'll take the Saints, which obviously Jake and Pat have. And then why don't we pick between Seattle and the Rams and Cincy and Indy?
Yeah, I mean, listen, I almost had the Colts on my card, like I mentioned, and I didn't go the other way. Like, I didn't look at the stats and go the other way. So I'd be fine with Colts money line there at minus 125, and that'll be help towards the boost. I don't know if Patty can commit to putting the Bengals on his card, anyways, being being a Bills guy.
It's a cover.
That's fine.
Yeah, it's not a win, right? So, I mean,
do we like? I mean, the Rams are coming off a loss last week, going up against Arizona in the division. I mean, is this just reminding everybody that they're still the number one team in the NFC?
That's why I picked them. And like McVay off a loss, it's something unbelievable, his record. It was, believe it or not, it's kind of hard to dig that kind of stuff up, completely other topic. But based off what I could see, it's like, take away that 6-game losing streak that they had back on that, nightmare of a season. He's only lost 2 games in a row, 7 times in his career. I think this is a flex your muscles. We are back. Stafford looked bad in the first half last week. I think this is a absolutely prove it game for the Rams to be we're still here. Last week was a fluke.
Jake, what do you think about putting the Rams 7.5 on with New Orleans plus 9.5 in Indy money line?
Yeah, I don't mind at all. I'm just reading some McVay stats here, actually. McVay 12-4-1 against the spread versus Arizona. Yeah, I mean, it looks like the numbers, all pretty good. Like you said, Patty, off a loss. I think this is a great opportunity for the Rams to jump back in. I think you guys have a better read on the NFC West anyways. So I have a hard time getting a read on those games with the Seahawks and the Rams. So yeah, I'm good to ride with the Rams there.
All right, so let's lock this in for the combo card. Indy money line, New Orleans plus 9.5, Rams minus 7.5. We'll get that boosted up. That'll be the WST Winners spread parlay. Our touchdown scorers, the house callers, if you will, Chase Brown, Rashee Rice, Devontae Adams. And then our props, and the prop one will always be in the exclusives. You won't find it in the top. Jonathan Taylor under 94.5 rushing yards, James Cook over 13.5 receiving yards, and Patrick Mahomes over 24.5. Patty, have you already put together a tease for the weekend?
I have. I just locked it in now. I've decided, and it's it's a little bit of a tease money line type of situation, but got the Seahawks down to a money line, Rams money line, Bears up to 12.5. That's will, I don't know, maybe get up to around a 150-ish type of deal, but yeah, get those down to a money line for those 2 touchdown spreads basically, and then the Bears to keep it in with 2 scores.
Perfect. All right, folks, you know where to find it all. We'll get some boosts and we'll get it in to the combo cards at the top of coolbet.com on the sportsbook side. Do not forget, if you jumped in late, check our socials. We're sending somebody with us to Costa Rica for the Costa Rica Poker Festival at the end of January. 3 tournaments to qualify. You got to be in the top 4. Wednesday, December 10th. Monday, December 22nd. Last chance qualifier, Wednesday, January 7th. And the final is on January 12th. And if you win that final, you'll be on the bird with us Monday, January 26th for a week down in Costa Rica. Boys, good stuff. Patty, have a great call in the lax. And guys, let's get back in the win column with a big week 14. And good luck to everyone in your fantasy, in whatever your fantasy situation is this week, especially if you're trying to make the playoffs without Bryce Young, Jackson Dart, any of those players. It's the 2 QB leagues are just absolutely screwed this week.
Decimated
when it comes down to it. But should be a lot of fun, guys. Have a great weekend. Folks, if you haven't played a Coolbet before, what the hell are you waiting for? Promo code WST, 100% bonus on your first deposit, up to $200. And check the combo cards and the exclusives for everything we've cooked up at WST Winners. Thanks to Michael Remus for producing the show today. For Jake Bolin, Pat Gregoire, I'm Andrew Paterson. Good luck with the bets this weekend. We'll see you next week right here on WST Winners.